Right. Well, I've tried to set this up to do the live stream and everything, and Google Hangouts is really not as easy as it used to be to set up just a simple live stream like this. It used to be like at the click of a button, you could sort it out. You could be live, you could be streaming within minutes. And now I had to download encoders. I had to download a new Hangout plugin. I had to download a new streaming plugin. I mean, I don't know what the hell Google Plus is doing. And apparently now the word on the street is Google Plus is about to separate from YouTube within the next couple of months. So yeah, that went well. Google Plus really took the world by storm, became the new Facebook. Not. So there you go. This is going to be my live Q&A that I promised a couple of months ago. It's been a while, but I just didn't have the time to do it. And I figured a live stream would be better for me to do it because I wouldn't have to take up all the space by filming it on my camera. It's just easier and more convenient for me. You might hear my cat sounding like she's licking sandpaper right now because she's got a cone around her head and she's constantly licking it. And speaking of my cat, considering she's not very well right now and hasn't been for a few weeks, I might have to stop the stream if she continues licking the awful wound she has on the back of her leg. So that might interrupt proceedings. If it does, I'll come back and do a part 2. But let's just get right to it. Hello to the 0 viewers who are currently watching this right now. Now let's get to the questions, which I have on my other laptop here, which again were sent in a couple of months ago from Claire Nocturna. Claire, she says, why do you almost tear up when watching a Star Wars trailer? I should probably turn my my phone off. I'll put it on vibrate in case I need someone calls me. Yeah, why do you almost tear up when watching a Star Wars trailer? Do you think that's overreacting? Of course, she's taking the piss, really. But why do I tear up when watching a Star Wars trailer? Because it's Star Wars, that's why. Now we have a bunch of questions from Ryan Chataway. And by the way, well, I guess there's no point even saying ask questions now because there's no one watching this. So we'll just, yeah, I'll just treat this as me just recording this video and getting it out there immediately as opposed to rendering and everything. And the Q&A app is open, but we'll see what happens. So Ryan Chataway, my good friend Ryan Chataway, asks 10 questions. So let's try and get through these. The first one, what is your favorite sandwich? Ingredients as well. I have a few favorite sandwiches. I like a BLT. There's a Tesco sandwich in the UK called smoked ham and mustard. I love that. It's just some nice simple ham with a lot of mustard. That's one of my favorite sandwiches. 2, are there any foods that you like that a lot of people hate? Don't really think so. I mean, I'm very picky with food anyway. I don't like eggs, don't like cheese mostly. So I'm kind of the picky one who only really likes the, you know, a few select things anyway. So I can't really say there's anything I like that people hate. 3, what are you reading right now? I'm currently reading the manga by Hayao Miyazaki, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I'm on the 2nd book of that now, I think. I'm also reading the Batman New 52 issues from, I think, 2012. So I've started that in issue 1. I'm on about 3 now, I think, and I'm really enjoying that. Number 4, what are some of your favorite videos that other YouTubers in our community have made? There's a lot of videos I've loved that people in the YouTube movie community have made. Off the top of my head, James DVD Collector, he made this one that was like behind the scenes, I think. He kind of showed his little studio he had at the time. He kind of had this room in his shop that he owns or runs, I guess, and he had like a green screen set up and everything. That was a really cool video. I love Ryan. I love your movie marathon videos. I love a lot of Jolly Studio One's videos. He does great vlogs and great DVD unboxings. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. Definitely go check him out. Yeah, he's awesome. I don't know, videos. There's, again, marathon videos I like watching. I like watching kind of like the Friday Night Ritual style videos. Like Robbie Webster's old videos are great. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint certain videos, you know. Again, love Ian Forkable, but I kind of love all the videos he makes. You know, it's not just one particular video in general. But yeah, that's about all I got right now, I guess. Zaran Isaac, you know, anytime he does a big long video, I love those as well. His day in the life video was awesome. Number 6, how many VHS tapes do you still own, if any? Hundreds. I was trying to find an old video of me when I was probably like, I think from like 1 until like about 6 years old. There's like about 3 hours of stuff, and I couldn't find the tape anywhere, so I had to go into my bed, which has hundreds of VHS tapes underneath it. There's hundreds in my cupboard as well. It was kind of the VHS summer of 2009 that's kind of accumulated them all, because most of them aren't even original tapes for me. All of my original tapes from my collection I either gave away to my cousin Ben when he was a kid, or they're in my dad's attic, because I had a lot of VHS tapes when I was a kid. But the ones I have readily available to me now back home in Wales in my bedroom, old tapes I bought in 2009. I went to charity shops like about 3 or 4 times a week, and I would just buy bags full. Even if it was stuff I wasn't that interested in, I'd just buy it anyway. You get tapes for like 10p, you get like 10 tapes for £1, and I just built this whole wall. I just literally just like stacked them up against my whole wall in my room, and just had hundreds of stuff. I mean, I watched the Godfather trilogy for the first time on VHS in 2009, if you can believe that. I watched loads of them. It was great. But now I'm left with loads of VHS tapes and don't know what to do with them. You can't really sell them. They're bulky to package. I don't know. But yeah, I got a lot of VHS tapes. Number 7, what do you do when trolls taunt you on your channel? Don't want to get trolls, really. I get loads of like the dislike, the dislike crew. That's fine. Really doesn't really bother me. There's people say, oh, it doesn't really bother me, and then it really does, And sometimes it does. Sometimes it still does get to me, but trolls, not so much, really. I mean, I get people leaving stupid comments or nasty comments, and yeah, I just haven't really got the time for it, It is what it is. There's always going to be, cunts out there, so let them be cunts and just ignore them and don't feed them. The more you talk to them, the more you interact with them, the more it spirals out of control. And sometimes I do try and just reply to them to kind of make them kind of see how stupid their comments are, and I'll try and I'll humor them I'll entertain them for a few moments, but then you just got to kind of let it drop, really. Otherwise, you're giving them more fuel. Number 8, what are some films you love that others rarely talk about? Probably The Burbs, I guess, is one of those films for me. The World According to Garp, which is one of my favorite films, and no one ever talks about that film. I mean, you can't really get it. I think you can get it on DVD, but it's one of those rare films. And again, I watched it on VHS for the first time in 2009. Amazing drama, Robin Williams, that is just fantastic. You should definitely check it out if you get the chance. Also stars Glenn Close, John Lithgow, who I believe won an Oscar for that film. It's amazing, and no one ever talks about it. Number 9, what classic film would you have liked to have acted in? That's interesting. What classic film would I have liked to have acted in? I'd love to have been in Seven Samurai, but I wouldn't have fit, obviously, for obvious reasons. Let me think. A classic film that I would have loved to have acted in. Oh, I don't know, really. Maybe something like Ben-Hur or something, like one of those proper epics, That would be cool to be in, I guess. But I can't really think of anything that would kind of really... Well, let's think. Well, no, maybe a silent film, maybe a classic silent film. I'd love to have been in a Buster Keaton film, just to be around him while filming, and just seeing the genius at work. Yeah, being in a silent film actually would be pretty good. So maybe in The General, that would be a lot of fun. Or, yeah, I'd say that, The General, maybe. Or maybe Sunrise, I could be just like play a bit part, like in the, there's a great scene in Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, F.W. Murnau film, where a pig gets drunk in a kitchen, a restaurant kitchen. A pig runs in, and this kind of, I guess the chef or something, or a waiter, he's drinking some red wine, and then he drops a bottle, I think, and the pig starts drinking it. But he was like a really funny little character who's only in the film for about 20 seconds. That'd be cool to just have a little bit part in film history. Number 10, what was the last song you had in your head? The last song I had in my head was this rap song. You can find it on YouTube by a guy called Danny, but spelt D4NNY, and the song is called Goodbye, and it's possibly one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life, and I keep singing it to annoy my fiance, and she absolutely hates me for it, but it's absolutely terrible. It's dog shit, but it gets stuck in your head, and it's the lyrics are like, goodbye to the people who hated on me, goodbye to the people who loved me. And it's like auto-tuned and stuff. It is terrible, but it's somehow kind of catchy. I don't know. It's just one of those things. So thanks, Ryan, for those questions. And I've just skipped right to the bottom of all the questions, which is always fun. So let's get back down. Right, okay. Courage, my boy, asks, if you and your fiance were ever going to have a baby, if it had to be born as one of these, which would it be, an alien or a predator? Keep in mind, you will probably need to take it down or condition it to normal society. Let me think about that. Well, I probably a predator, because it's more of a humanoid creature as opposed to an alien, which, I mean, if you have a little baby alien and it like scuffs its knee in the playground, it's going to start burning acid and might kill other little kids. So a predator I could probably try and condition to normal society and just keep the mask on. So it's, you know, it is one ugly mother. Yeah, predator I think would be the answer for that one. A more serious question now. He says, you have stated before that you would give up YouTube at some point, I think 30 years old. Would you give it up completely, or do you think you will still keep up the once-a-year marathon tradition with your buddy, Mr. Chataway? I can't remember saying that before. I guess I probably have. Yeah, I don't know. I guess really my life goal would be to get moving in the kind of career of making films, you know, in whatever role it may be. So in my mind, in 3 years' time, when I'm 30, I would like to be moving forward with a career in filmmaking. So I guess that's why I said I'd probably stop YouTube. I probably won't stop completely. You know, I'll keep the channel up, you know, and probably make videos every now and again. But I'm just saying that I think by the time I hit 30, hopefully I have a kid then as well. You know, I mean, that would be, you know, the ultimate goal, really. I mean, above a career, I would much prefer to be a father, I guess, if I had to choose. And so, you know, time then would not be spent on YouTube. So right now I'm releasing videos like almost every day on a weekly basis. That won't be the case, I think, in a few years. You know, it would have been long enough for me to I kind of have all these things in my head, like series I want to do, and I kind of see it as I'll have that done and then I can move on, kind of thing. So I'll still make videos every now and again when it comes to that point, I think, but we'll just see what happens. You know, there's nothing definite. And if I do stop making YouTube videos altogether, I will keep up the tradition of doing the 24-hour movie marathon every year and making a video about it. That's definitely something I want to continue doing for as long as I'm physically able to do it, which is pretty much till for the rest of my life, basically. I love doing the marathon video. So thanks for the questions, man. Then we have Sassy Nick, who says, how did you start getting into cinema, and what were your first DVD and your first Blu-ray? How did I start getting into cinema? Like anyone, you just love films growing up, I guess. That's kind of what it was for me. I just loved films. But I guess starting to get into cinema, that's kind of, you know, people, when you're a kid, you don't say, I love cinema. You say, I love films or movies. So I kind of interpret that question as cinema in terms of, like, you know, being a film buff or a cinephile. I'd say that point would probably be maybe around 2011. About 4 years ago, when I first started making videos about films as opposed to wrestling, and I started delving into films like Seven Samurai and looking at Japanese films, and then, you know, a couple of years ago I started looking at silent films, and I think over the past few years that's kind of when I became a cinephile or whatever. And my first DVD, I think, was either Fast and the Furious in 2002 or 2001 and Castaway with Tom Hanks. I got that pre-owned from Blockbuster. Yeah, I think Castaway and Fast and the Furious, one of those two was my first DVD. First Blu-ray that I owned. It was a wrestling Blu-ray, so we'll cancel that out. But the first film I had on Blu-ray was Silence of the Lambs, and I kind of put it on and was blown away by it. Like, wow, okay, this Blu-ray is the real deal, because I was really one of those guys who was like, HD, it's just a way to make more money. I was seriously an idiot like that. I was one of those people you just think, oh my god, what are they thinking? Honestly, I thought that there was not much difference, that you couldn't even tell it with the naked eye how you know, standard definition, high definition, the leap in quality. And then I guess I just had that kind of eureka moment, and then I realized, and I put in Silence of the Lambs, I was like, wow, I can see the hairs on Jodie Foster's lip in that shot. It's unbelievable. So yeah, the first Blu-ray I had, film Blu-ray, was the Silence of the Lambs, and that was in 2011. His second question is, why do you think you started to become introverted, and do you think it could have led to your obsession with cinema? I don't know. Why did I start to become an introverted person? I just think I was born that way, honestly. I think people just have their own personality types. Obviously, it goes along with the way you were raised and the people you're around and all that kind of stuff. It's all ingredients into the pot that makes you who you are. But I just feel like it's just the way I was meant to be, you know? I'm not really that outgoing. I don't like being the center of attention. I don't like really, I don't know. I'm not really against being, you know, outgoing and stuff like that or anything like that. It's just my way. I like to kind of be more observant and kind of I don't know, assess the situation. It's just the way that I am, really. I don't think that film had anything to do with that. I've always been that way, except for when I've had a few drinks, which is probably why I don't drink anymore. yeah, I don't know. I'm introverted and I'm proud of it. You know, it's just the way I am, and I think I'm a better judge of character because of that. Because I'm not constantly trying to project myself onto others. I'm constantly kind of taking in what others are giving to a social situation. I think that's just my opinion on it. Yeah, I don't think my obsession with cinema really had anything to do with it. Again, just my opinion. Number 3, do you suffer from any kind of anxiety or allergy? Anxiety, not really. If I'm in like a really closed space, I do have a touch of claustrophobia. I used to have these terrible dreams where I was being kind of, these big black bin bags were kind of descending on me and just suffocating me, and oh, horrible. So slight claustrophobia, not mental, but you know, it's a little bit of claustrophobia, I think. And sometimes when I'm in like huge crowds, like actually when I flew back over here to Norway a few weeks ago, Gatwick Airport was the busiest I've ever seen it. I've been flying in and out of Gatwick for years, and for some reason, and again through the summer, so it's not like I've never flown in the summer, but for some reason a few weeks ago it was absolutely packed. They'd even extended the whole security that, you know, where you go through, you put your bags through, they scan you in the body scanner and stuff. They'd extended that like double, you know, so that they could presumably get more people through, and it was even busier than normal. It's really weird, and I was getting really stressed out. I just want to get away from the crowd for some reason. So I guess that's maybe some kind of anxiety, but not really. I just hate being stuck in one spot with loads of people, really. And probably the biggest example of that was going to WrestleMania last year in New Orleans. We were inside the Superdome, and literally just packed in like that, and you couldn't move, and it was just like, I just said out loud, I'm never doing this again. It was unbelievable. It turned out to be an isolated case. Apparently everyone was trying to get in on one side of the arena, not the other side, and we knew that, but we couldn't move because we were just packed in, and it took us about like an hour to get into. It was ridiculous. Anyway, allergy, yeah, I have just like the normal kind of hay fever, really, which is exacerbated by kind of pet hairs and stuff like that, really. Like cat hairs, I should say, and dogs as well. It depends, really. I get used to cats over time. And I see I have 5 viewers now. If you have any questions, you should be able to submit them on the right or something like that. There should be some kind of thing, but up to you. Just letting you know that the Q&A thing app is open, I think. So if you want to send in any questions. Number 4 from Sassy Nick. What is your 3 favorite items in your collection? There's loads off the top of my head. Harry Potter Wizards collection, Breaking Bad barrel set, and what would the third one be? I don't know, really. My whole massive cinema collection. No, 3 items, 3 favorite items. Third one, I don't know. I really don't know. That's a really tough one. The Bond 50 set, because that's awesome. Number 5, what is your favorite food/snack? I have a lot of them. Anyone in the UK, I love Doritos Chili Heatwave. They're amazing. I love the sweets, blackjacks and fruit salads, especially mixed together. Mint Imperials, mint creams, Clarnico mint creams. They're incredible, but you can hardly ever find them anywhere in the UK anymore, and it sucks. Other favorite foods and foods, you know, like pizza, you know, hot dogs, stuff like that. I like burgers, bacon burgers. They're the best. I had an amazing bacon burger in New Orleans. That was incredible. Yeah, the typical stuff, really. Burgers, pizza, you know, just typical junk food, really, and snacks, crisps, and you know, sweets and mints, I think. Thanks for the questions. Then we have Ryan Wright, who asks, favorite Blu-ray edition or steelbook? Again, it's really hard to whittle down to just one. Favorite Blu-ray edition? Oh God, it's just so hard. It really is. I can give you a couple. You know, I love the Japanese edition I have of Porco Rosso, which is my favorite animated film of all time. It's like kind of a digibook Japanese edition. My Criterion edition of Seven Samurai, amazing. Just having the General, Buster Keaton's The General on Blu-ray is fantastic. That's another one of my favorite editions, even though it doesn't have quite the like all the Buster Keaton Blu-rays from Kino Video or Kino whatever in the US. They all have slip boxes and slip covers, great editions, but the General is the only one that doesn't have a slip cover or anything, which is a shame. But the disc itself is amazing. And favorite steelbook, Thor. You know, having Thor is awesome because it's really rare. The original Metropolis steelbook, the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind steelbook is another one of my favorites. Oh, here we go. Your rarest Blu-ray or Steelbook? Well, I think my Metropolis one is now my rarest Steelbook, which I'm really thankful for, along with Thor. And then rarest, just general Blu-ray, would probably be Dawn of the Dead, the Arrow Video white slipbox limited edition. I managed to get that for like £10 just before it went out of print. I was really lucky with that one. Thanks for the questions. Then we have Kishan Sathi's. What do you prefer, the Conjuring or Insidious series? Asked me that a year ago, I would have said no idea. I've never seen any of them, but I've now seen all of the Conjuring. Actually, no. Is there a second film to the Conjuring? Maybe I haven't seen it. I've seen the first one. I've seen all the Insidious films. Oh no, there's a third one of those. All right, okay, there's Insidious 1, Insidious 2. I've seen those, and I've seen The Conjuring. I really like both, actually. I was surprised by both. I was like, oh, another modern horror film, you know, and it just, I don't know. I wasn't really that keen on watching them. Watched The Conjuring, thought it was fantastic, loved it, great horror film, fantastic. And then Insidious, really surprised by the first Insidious. I loved. What I loved about the first Insidious film was that, you know, you got this family in this house and shit's going down and it's creepy and stuff, and oh, this isn't good, and they just move. Like 20 minutes into the film, right, we're moving then. It's just like, it's brilliant because that's what you would do. You always have these haunted house films where they just stay there for the whole film. It's like, why don't you just move? And they move, and I really like that. And then the rest of the film is like in an apartment, which is really bland, and I really like that kind of just that idea and the fact they did it in the film. Kind of a ballsy move, I think. Maybe not ballsy, but it was different. So I don't know. I really like the second Insidious film too. So just based on the quantity, I'll go with Insidious for now. And Ian Focke-Walt asks, why is a raven like a writing desk? That's Edgar Allan Poe, isn't it? And then we have a question from Chris Blue 007. Would you dress up as Goldust and walk down the street saying, who wants some? I'm going to have a think about that and say no. Do you think all remade films now should be banned from being remade? No, I don't think so, because I think you can still make a good film as a remake. Look at, you know, Ben-Hur, you know, the classic Ben-Hur film from the 50s with Charlton Heston. That's a remake, you know, but it's, you know, yeah, remakes can be done right. It just depends what the motivation is, I think. Like, you have some of these modern remakes that just kind of, they don't quite hit the mark, like RoboCop or Total Recall, you know. And for the record, I loved RoboCop and Total Recall, the remakes. Well, I didn't love them. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were good films. I didn't think that they tarred the reputation of the original. But they just, why bother? They're not even going to touch, you know, the originals. And I especially think with 80s films, you just can't recreate the feeling of an 80s film. That's just me, I guess. So sometimes I think it's pointless, but it's going to happen anyway. And I just don't, you know, take a chance. You know, you never know. And again, The Thing is kind of a remake. But again, you get into like grey waters when you kind of talk about stuff like that. Unless it is a straight up remake like RoboCop or Total Recall. But, you know, I don't really have as much hate for remakes as other people do, but I would prefer to see more original films, certainly. For £200, would you walk over to someone in a Burger King bar and take a chip from their plate and say, that's nice, and walk off? Yes, I definitely would. As long as they weren't, they didn't look too physically imposing, because I've never really had a real fight in my life, and I'd probably get my ass kicked. Then we have a question from Carl van der Woning. Hi, Luke. Hope you're well. Yes, I am. Thank you. My question to you is, what is your favorite decade for cinema? Very tough. Very, very tough. And I know there's a question coming up about kind of decades versus each other. I can't decide between the 20s and the 80s for me. The 80s was just an incredible year, incredible decade, incredible 10 years of films. From genre picks like Empire Strikes Back to the Future and Blade Runner and Indiana Jones films, to, you know, The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China, RoboCop. It just goes on and on and on. The Terminator, I mean, the amount of films that came out in the 80s that were just incredible. And I love the aesthetic of just 80s-ness. But then I look at the 20s, and it's just masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece. I really can't decide, so I'm going to have to just go with both of them. Split decision at the end. The Gargantuan Apple, great username, has a few questions. What was the first movie you ever saw? I don't know. I know the first movie I saw in the cinema was The Beauty and the Beast, which I think came out in 1991. And I remember, I have a vivid memory of seeing the opening shot of the film in the cinema. So my nan must have taken me when I was about 3, I guess, which is kind of crazy, really. But that's one of my earliest memories, period. So Beauty and the Beast. Favorite superhero, Batman. Favorite villain, the Joker. Kind of go hand in hand with each other, I guess. I just love the dynamic of the characters and the way they can both be reinterpreted, and kind of, you know, things can be added to them. And again, different actors can step in, different writers can step in, whether it's in the comics or the games or the films. Those characters can just be, they can keep getting done over and over and over again, and you can still, I think, get good results out of them. And I just love, again, the Batman versus Joker kind of dynamic. And I think, was it in The Dark Knight where he says, where Joker says to Batman, "I need you"? They have this kind of symbiotic relationship where one couldn't quite exist without the other. What is the worst film you've ever seen? Definitely Rabbit Test. Stay away from that pile of shit if you know what's good for you. DJ Business Cake 1 says, what's been the greatest day of your life so far? That's a tough one. There isn't really one that stands out as like that was the best day ever, because I've had quite a few that have been very special to me and stuff. I mean, going to WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans last year was kind of like one of those, you know, once in a lifetime dream, you know, bucket list moments for me. Going to a WrestleMania, being there live, it was incredible. And not only that, my favorite wrestler won the world title, and it was just unbelievable. So that's definitely one of them. But I mean, almost every day of that trip in the US was one of the greatest days of my life, because I got to spend it with my fiance, and we were just traveling the US and just having a blast. You know, it was awesome. You know, even though it's a very small kind of day for me, proposing to my fiance was one of those days I'll never forget. You know, there's been quite a few, but I guess I'd probably I'd go to WrestleMania 30 at this point, just because, you know, it's one of those kind of big, kind of larger than life things that stands out more than maybe some of the quieter, more, you know, chilled out, you know, greatest days, I think. Then we have Flockable, who just asked a question on the live chat, but he asked these questions about a month ago, it says. And Ian also asked on the live chat, who's your favorite superhero that's not Batman? Do you mean like superhero who doesn't have superpowers? That's interesting. Non-superhero that's not Batman. Okay. Or maybe you just mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by that question, but I'm trying to think of a superhero who doesn't have superpowers that I really enjoy. See, I'm not really a big, you know, I'm not really a big Superman fan. I love the Spider-Man films with that Sam Raimi made, but outside of that, I haven't really enjoyed the character that much. Yeah, you know, what other characters are there? Give me some suggestions, Ian, of superheroes, and I'll get back to you. Okay, now Ian's questions from a month ago. If you could only keep 5 Master Cinema titles, which 5 would you choose? Stay tuned for tonight's top 5 video, and you'll find out. Which is really bullshit answer, but I don't know. Maybe I can pick 5, because the top 5 video coming up tonight, which is kind of my top 5 Blu-rays from the collection, which takes into account all the special features and not necessarily the films themselves. What 5 would I choose if I'm going to keep 5 of them? Frau im Mond, definitely. Woman in the Moon. Sunrise, definitely. Song of Two Humans, without a doubt. Metropolis, definitely. Die Nibelungen, definitely. Only one left. Fuck. Really tough. Harakiri. There we go. That's my 5. Harakiri, Sunrise, Metropolis, Frau im Mond, and Die Nibelungen. But there's still loads I'd love to keep. Number 2, if you were to ride a camel, would you rather it be a 1-humped camel or a 2-bumped camel? And explain your reasons, please. Well, it'd have to be 2, really, so you could have a nice seat. Number 3, if you were to appear in a future Star Wars film, what kind of character would you like to be? Good, bad, strong, weak, or droid? You'd have to be, I don't know, actually. I don't know. I'd like to be a tweener, which in the wrestling world is kind of like in between a good guy and a bad guy. I'd like to be a morally challenged Jedi/Sith who wasn't quite sure where his future lies and has got a lot of angst, and yeah, and is a bit of a badass with a lightsaber. That's kind of what I'd go for, I think, if I could be in a future Star Wars film. But you know, if I was asked, I would do anything. I'd hop into R2-D2 like Kenny Baker and break my back if I could be in a Star Wars film. Number 4, your favorite Vincent Price film and why? Do you know what? I'm going to go with the film. There's only a few films I've seen with Vincent Price in. One that I love is Theatre of Blood. But I'm going to pick one that he's not really the main character in. It's a film from the 40s. I forget what year it's from. It's called Laura. and it's about this detective who gets called in to investigate a murder of a woman called Laura. And as he's investigating the murder, he kind of falls in love with this dead woman. Basically, the idea of her he becomes, I guess, romanticized by. And the boyfriend of the woman, Laura, is played by Vincent Price, and he's really good in it. He's funny, kind of smarmy. You kind of want to just give him a slap sometimes, but then you kind of just want to let him off, because you can tell he doesn't mean it in a way. That's probably my favorite Vincent Price film, even though it's not a quote-unquote Vincent Price film. He was very young in the film as well, going back to the 40s, but that's my favorite film that has Vincent Price in it. But if you want my favorite film that has Vincent Price as a starring role, it'd be Theatre of Blood. Number 5, if you could choose how you will eventually die, what would it be? I've always thought that it would be great to die as an old 80-year-old man who's done everything he's ever wanted to do, had no ties left, and, I'd love to just skydive out of a plane into the Grand Canyon without a parachute. I mean, it would just be like the most epic death of all time. You could just like see like one of the the great wonders of the world, and just it would be awesome, and then just done. I mean, if you jumped out at like 30,000 feet or something ridiculous like that, by the time you hit the ground, it would just be instant. You'd just be a pile of bones and muscle and blood. You just wouldn't even feel it probably. Maybe you would. Maybe it'd be the most horrific death of all time. I don't know. I mean, obviously, best case scenario would be just to kind of have a really nice night, a really nice day and night, be content with all of your life and looking back, and then just going to bed, going to sleep, and then just dying peacefully in your sleep. But I've always thought it'd be great to just go out in the biggest way possible by just skydiving into the Grand Canyon, or maybe something else, of similar, wonder. Number 6, would you ever shave your head and paint it red? If it made sense in a film I was going to make, yes. Number 7, tell everyone about the culture shelf. This one is optional. The culture shelf is a shelf that Ian has created. I'm kind of maybe giving myself too much credit by saying off the back of my videos and stuff, he's been encouraged to check out films maybe he wouldn't have ordinarily done, like the Mess for Cinema range and so on. And his culture shelf is his shelf of culture as he deems culture to be, which is these classic films that have been released by Massive Cinema. And I think you have a Criterion, right? And the Charlie Chaplin. Do you have Charlie Chaplin films? Yeah. He's got a box set of Charlie Chaplin films. I'm sure they're part of the culture shelf. That is what the culture shelf is, and I approve of that message. Number 8, excluding your favorite films, top 20. If you could go back in time, be part of any film in any way, director, producer, the guy who mops up and makes the tea, which one would you choose? What role would you take, and why? Okay. Jonas Olsen says, Jesus, fuck, it took me 15 minutes to find a way into this chat room. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on. Honestly, it took me like 20 minutes to get this thing going when, I've done like, I think about 10 live streams in the past, and it just takes like 20 seconds to start up, and they've just convoluted it beyond comprehension. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, sorry it took a while for you to get in, but I can see your message now. Right, if I go back in time, be a part of any film in any way, what would it be? See, I should have thought about some of these questions beforehand, but I thought I would just go in blind. It's a good question. Director, producer, the guy who mops up. I don't know. I'll tell you what I'd love to be. I tell you what I'd love to do. It's not quite in my top 20 favorite films, but definitely top 30. The Burbs. Joe Dante's The Burbs, which is a great comedy from the 80s. Tom Hanks. And it's just all set in this one kind of cul-de-sac in this neighborhood, and they're all paranoid and stuff. I would love to be in that film. I'd love to act in that film in the part that, what's his name? Corey Feldman played, the kid across the road. I'd like, because again, you'd be acting alongside Tom Hanks and Rick DeCommon, who passed away a couple of months ago, sadly. He's amazing in that film. I really wish he had become more of a thing. He's a great comedic. He was a great comedic actor who was fantastic in The Burbs, but never really picked up any steam as a, not even a leading, not even a supporting comedic actor in films, apart from The Burbs, I think. And he's been in loads of things in bit parts. He was in Die Hard, Last Action Hero, but again, very small parts. But yeah, I'd love just to act alongside them, be a part of that film would be amazing. I probably wouldn't play him as goofy as Corey Feldman does, but it would just be cool to be in that film, I don't really like to think that I would go back and direct something that I like. I just think, just leave it as it is, and there isn't anything I'd do differently for films that I love anyway. So there you go. Thank you, Ian, for the questions, both live and from the past. We have Mad for Movies, who has a bunch of questions in terms of decades against each other, like 70s versus 80s, who wins? It's a tough one. A lot of great films in the 70s, but I'll go with the 80s on that one. I think whenever I think of 70s and 80s, I think of Star Wars. So, I prefer Empire Strikes Back, which was in the 80s, and Return of the Jedi. So that kind of inches it out. But there's great films in the 70s that I love as well, like Rocky and Jaws, some absolute classics, But I'd go with the 80s ultimately, I think, on that one. 60s versus 50s. I go with 50s because I love the early 50s of Japanese cinema. Are absolutely unbelievable. Like, what the fuck happened in Japan in the early 50s for films to be that good? You got Seven Samurai from Akira Kurosawa. Hidden Fortress he did in the 50s as well, I'm pretty sure. Again, don't want to get my dates mixed up. Then you got Rashomon as well. I think that was 1950. Masaki Kobayashi made the Human Condition trilogy, which is just one of the greatest films ever made that hardly anyone has seen. Then you got Tokyo Story and Sanchu Dayu and Ugetsu Monogatari. 50s are amazing. And then you got films like Bridge Over the River Kwai, On the River Kwai, which is another one of the greatest films ever made. Yeah, the 50s is awesome. There's some great films in the 60s too, but 50s inches out for me because of those Japanese films mainly. 40s versus 30s, I'm going to go with 40s. A lot of classic Hollywood films in that time, Citizen Kane and Double Indemnity is a film I really love from the 40s. And of course, 40s when film noir really became a huge thing. So 40s for me, definitely over the 30s. 2000s versus the 2010s. That's interesting. Well, we're only 5 years into the 2010s, but I think I'll go with the 2010s. I mean, there's been some incredible films over the past few years. Great ones in the 2000s, but I think even though we're only halfway into this decade, I think this decade is stronger for films than last decade. And finally, the 20s versus the 1910s. Well, it's got to be the 20s. I mean, 20s, they just... I feel like, cinema was born in like the late 1890s. And then in the 1910s, it was kind of like, right, what is this? We're feeling this out, what can we do here, Or in the 1900s and the 1910s, they had about 20 years to kind of just like, you have like D.W. Griffith, who's really pushing the boundaries of like these long epic films and stuff with Intolerance and Birth of a Nation. But then by the time we get to the 20s, it was like, right, we're going to hit the ground running. We know what we're doing now. People like Fritz Lang, Buster Keaton, and F.W. Murnau just absolutely just blew away everything that had been done in the history of cinema before that point. The 20s is just one of the best decades for cinema ever, so no competition in terms of the 20s and the 1910s. Thank you for those questions. Josh Bell asks, at what age did you realize you were a film buff? Kind of talked about that earlier. I guess it would be 2011, so how old was I then? 23, I guess. I think for me, the genesis point of me being into like quote-unquote cinema would be when I watched Seven Samurai, which was in, I think, September-ish 2011. So that's kind of it for me. Stiff Kittens asks, hi, Luke. Will you ever take advantage of your location and do one of your vlogumentaries on the Aurora Borealis, which is the Northern Lights? I doubt it. We don't really get it that strong here, although we did see it in the 24-hour movie marathon 2, I think, from 2013, which was really cool. We watched Aliens, and then there was Northern Lights. It was really cool. The first time I'd seen it, and it was pretty impressive. We didn't get it that strong like you see in all the, when they go real north in Norway and other countries like Iceland. We don't get it that much, so I doubt I could ever kind of. It's not something that ever really is, as far as I'm aware. They can't telegraph it that much. Whenever we find out about it happening here, it's literally like, okay, it's there now, it's instant. You don't really get like a build up like, oh, it's going to be in a couple of days. So I couldn't really build anything around that. But if it happens again while I'm filming a marathon video, then I'll include it. Are you going to Star Wars Celebration next year? No, I'd love to, but I just can't see it being financially viable, really. And I think that they're already selling out tickets, so not a chance, really. Would love to go with it being in London, very convenient and stuff. And I'm sure there'll be like, imagine meeting Mark Hamill. That would be like absolute dream scenario for me, but just isn't to be, really. But I'm looking forward to the next few years of Star Wars fandom and all the stuff that's going on with the Star Wars brand. Excuse me, suppressed burp there. Always a good one. Number 3, are there any films you still prefer watching on tape over DVD and Blu-ray? For example, I still have the original trilogy on tape unaltered before the special edition, and it's nice to watch every now and again. He means the original Star Wars trilogy. Not really, to be honest. A few years ago, I watched The World According to Garp, which I mentioned earlier, on VHS and on a 40-inch TV, and it was ropey and it was grainy, but I loved it. So yeah, I could definitely see myself watching and enjoying films on VHS for kind of the nostalgia value, but there's nothing I prefer watching. Blu-ray is just too good at this point. Maybe again, just for nostalgic purposes as a one-off, but apart from that, there's nothing I really prefer watching. As far as the original trilogy goes, I just watched the Harmy's despecialized editions, which are unbelievable. If you want more information on that, just Google despecialized edition Star Wars. Number 4, Digibook or Steelbook. I'll go with Steelbook because there's more of them and there's more that are great, I think. Digibooks, there aren't that many of them, but I do love Digibooks, and I think they are kind of classier than Steelbooks in a way, and there's less chance of damaging them. Well, actually, no, there's more chance of damaging Digibooks because you can really ding the edges and stuff, but I don't know. I love both, but at a push, I'd say Steelbooks. Number 5, has Zavvi killed the Steelbook market by making a Steelbook for virtually every film, second editions, and upping the price? You now no longer look forward to that moment when Play or HMV used to release an exclusive Steelbook because they are a dime a dozen now. Yeah, it's definitely saturated the market. I mean, Zavvi, they make a Steelbook for anything. It just, I don't know. I mean, when was it, Shaolin Soccer or something like that, or Kung Fu Soccer or something like that? Like that film got a Steelbook, and it's like, what? And again, Zavvi will release a Steelbook, then they'll release another one of the same film, and they say, oh, it's a limited edition, we're sold out now, and so people put it on eBay for like 50 quid, and then Zavvi turn up at a convention, they have all the out-of-print Steelbooks, stacked up high, that they know what they're doing. They really, they're pinching all those dollars and pounds and euros from people, and they're reaping the rewards, and they have terrible customer service. If you have a Steelbook damaged or something lost in the post, you will not get a refund, you will probably not get a replacement. I think the most I've heard is that Zavvi will give you a 10% discount on your next order, which you could get pretty much, anytime anyway. So, not a big fan of Zavvi. I'll order from them if I have to, if there's something I really want. I wouldn't say they've killed the Steelbook market because there's a lot of Asian companies now that are doing these, super deluxe editions with like lenticular slipcovers and full slips and all this bullshit, and people are just buying them in droves, and then they release like 3 different versions, and then they pack them in a triple pack. And it's 3 Steelbooks of the same film. In a lot of cases, they're like 2 of the same Steelbooks with like slightly different contents, and people are buying these triple, quadruple packs. I think it's unbelievable that people are spending so much money, and they're just getting fleeced by these Asian companies. But I will say, they make fantastic Steelbooks. For me, that's where you go to get the real elite stuff. But Zavvi, they do make great Steelbooks. But for me, I'll only order from Zavvi if they drop low in price, which they do sometimes. But yeah, I definitely think they haven't killed the Steelbook market, but they've dented it significantly, I'd say. Definitely doesn't have the prestige they used to, like the HMV exclusives, the Play.com exclusives, and that kind of stuff. Those days in like 2011, 2012, they're over now, basically. There's pretty much too many Steelbooks. Number 6, if you had chosen to submit a film that a person was forced to watch as a form of torture, which would you pick? I'd be inclined to look at like Troll 2, but I think that you can kind of enjoy those films, really. I enjoyed those films, as terrible as they are. I'd have to go Rabbit Test again. Rabbit Test, it's not even a film. It was shot on video. It is an advert. I won't get into it. I've made a video about Rabbit Test. I've ranted about it enough. Once was enough. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, if I was to choose a film that a person was forced to watch as a form of torture, it would undoubtedly be Rabbit Test. Rest in peace, Joan Rivers, but that movie was a pile of steaming shit. Number 7, what films are you still waiting to be upgraded to Blu-ray, be it from tape, laserdisc, or DVD? Well, top of the list is The World According to Garp, which again I mentioned earlier. That should be a drinking game. How many times I mentioned The World According to Garp in this live stream? Yes, that would be an amazing film to see on Blu-ray. I would love to see that. I'd love to see like Arrow Academy release it. Have like special features in a booklet and alternate artwork. That'd be incredible. But I don't see it happening. I don't see me being that lucky to get a great edition of The World According to Garp on Blu-ray. But hopefully, fingers crossed, just a standard catalog release would do me just fine. Anything else I can think of? Oh, again, top of the list as well would be Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, Richard Linklater's 1995 and 2004 films in the Before trilogy. The third one, Before Midnight, is out on Blu-ray, but the first two aren't, and it's an absolute travesty. Criterion really need to get their act together, get their shit together, and release a Before trilogy box set. That'd be like the #1 like holy grail next after I've got the Metropolis Steelbook. Now that's the next kind of one I want. It doesn't even exist. Is a Before Sunrise, Sunset, and Midnight trilogy box set on Blu-ray from Criterion. We have another comment from Ian. Yes, I have one Criterion, 2 fork points. I'll start that again. Yes, I have one Criterion, 2 fork points, if you can guess which one. The Phantom Carriage. 2 fork points to me. Because I know you've got that. Right, thanks for the questions. Then we have Joe Bullock, who says, favorite Western. That's his only question. My favorite Western. There's quite a few I love. But I'd say it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mean, that's my top 10 favorite films of all time. It has to be that, surely. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is amazing. You know, one of those films you just know about if you haven't seen it, and you think, oh, you know, is it really that good? And you watch it, and you're like, holy shit, it's amazing. So yeah, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is my favorite Western, without a doubt. Absolutely incredible, such an epic. I really want to see the remastered Blu-ray, but I've heard that the remastered Blu-ray gets the colors wrong or something like that. And I spent ages trying to like look into it because they had the new trilogy box set in HMV last month for like £8, which was amazing. And I sold the old box set, unfortunately. But I just read that the remastered version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is not as good in terms of the original color grading as the original release. So if anyone knows anything about that, let me know. Because I've been trying to research it, haven't really found much, and I'm not too sure, you know. Yeah, that's my favorite Western, so thanks for the question, Joe Bullock. Fano2806 says, all right, man, what was your favorite WrestleMania, and what do you think of the current state of the WWE? Do you think it has become stale? My favorite WrestleMania is still WrestleMania 19 from 2003. Just a great card. Hulk Hogan and, well, don't mention Hulk Hogan anymore, but Hogan and Vince McMahon, such a fun match. You know, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, amazing. I really like Triple H, Booker T. That's another good match. But then you have Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho, which is probably my favorite match of all time. At the time, I was so excited for that match. I couldn't believe my luck, and it delivered. That's still my favorite WrestleMania. But there's been other great ones like, well, it's hard really because there's some WrestleManias that have a great match and the rest of the card isn't that good. I'd say 25 just because of the Legends match, which was amazing, Ricky Steamboat, and then Undertaker Shawn Michaels, which is one of the greatest matches ever. And WrestleMania 30 is up there for me. Even though I was there live, I'm not biased. I think that's one of the best WrestleManias. Anyway, current state of the WWE. Do I think it's become stale? I think it always becomes stale. Every year after WrestleMania, it becomes stale for like 3 to 4 months. Then SummerSlam, you know, it heats up, and then it always goes through transitional periods. Current state of the WWE is pretty good because you've got a lot of good new up-and-coming guys who are getting a shot, which is always good. Thanks for the question. Jonas Olsen asked a few questions on the live chat. Have you seen The Jinx? If yes, what do you think of it? If no, watch it. Nope, never even heard of it. Was it a horror film or what? 2, how's it going with the Norwegian language? Give us a taste. That's the thing with Norwegian, you know. I'm good at reading it and kind of interpreting it, and if I listen to someone having a conversation, I'll pick up words and kind of gather what they're on about. But I'm still not that good at kind of receiving a conversation, or even speaking one, really. I mean, I try my hardest, but I'm just not very good at the retention of the words, and more importantly, putting the words together into a sentence. It's especially difficult when where I live in Trondheim, there is a dialect, Trøndersk, which is different to the standard bokmål, which, you know, I learn from the standard Norwegian, and then other words mean different things. It's hard. It's really difficult, you know, and I should be studying more, I think, because I guess I just need to practice more and more and more, but I can't really give you a taste because, I don't know. I don't know what to say, you know, and again, I'm not too confident with it as well. Sometimes I'll be in a shop, and I'll be buying something, and I'll try and speak a little Norwegian, and they'll just look at me like, who the fuck do you think you are? They'll just give me the dirtiest looks. I'm just like, I'm trying here, you know, and you get these people who just annoying, really annoying. But you know, I can count to 100. I'll probably count to 1,000 actually, thinking about it. But you know, I got basics, and I'm good at reading it, but it's still a conversational level, you know, that I just can't really try. But you know, it is what it is. we'll just move on from that because I'm spending too much time talking about it, probably boring people. Number 3, he asks, if you had to choose Star Wars or Batman, that is a very, very tough question. Star Wars or Batman? That's tough. That really is, because there's different elements of it that I like, you know. It's a really tough. That's probably the toughest question out of all of these. Maybe I'll come back to it. I'll come back to that at the end, just to make you continue watching, or come back and watch the end of it later. And I'll take these off the screen in case anyone else has any questions. So we just take that off. 2 seconds. All right. Andy2C asks, hi, I have some questions regarding wrestling. How much money can you roughly earn working on the British wrestling scene? And he asks more questions relating to that. I really don't know. Couldn't tell you. Never done it. Never really been paid to wrestle. I have a lot of friends on the British wrestling scene, but they don't really talk money with me. And so I don't really know, to be honest. I'm gathering it's not enough to pay the bills, to be honest, because I know one of my friends, he still works a job when he goes home and stuff like that. So not too sure, to be honest, but I don't think you can really make a great living on the British wrestling indie scene. If you're one of the top guys, maybe. I don't know. Depends on what you get booked, I guess. Number 2, any idea where I can find the UK Backyard Wrestling Forum in any shape or form, as I used to backyard in the early 2000s and spent my teen years on the forums. It doesn't exist now as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, I should say. There was one a few years ago, but it wasn't really any of the guys from the early 2000s, more of the next generation. The only way it exists now is there's a secret private group where we all talk still on Facebook, but it's not really the forum, unfortunately. But yeah, that's all I can really say about that. And number 3, who out of said forums has made it pro, other than the obvious big name guy in the WWE at the moment? Yeah, Adrian Neville was, of course, a UK Backyard Wrestler. Pac. Out of forums, who's made it pro? I mean, if you know any of them, Chris Taylor, Napalm, Natrix, Scott Smith is another one. Quite a few guys, actually, have dabbled, I guess. But those are the main guys. And there's a guy called Ace Payne who's pretty big right now. But he was more on the tail end of the 2000s. So, yeah, that's all I can tell you. But if you want to send me a message, we can talk about that. Next questions are from Rafferty316. What was the most disappointing film you've ever seen? I don't know. I don't really get disappointed too much by films. I don't really build. Well, I do build them up, actually. There are quite a few films I build myself up for, but I really get that disappointed. I don't think I have a good answer for that one without just stopping this stream in its tracks, really. So I'll move on from that. I apologize. I can't really think of anything that's really disappointed me that much, really. I don't know. I'll tell you what, we'll go with A Million Ways to Die in the West last year, Seth MacFarlane's Western comedy. I was really looking forward to that. I was like, oh, this could be really good. It's a great cast, you know. I like Seth MacFarlane, you know. A Western comedy sounds fun. It was shit. That was disappointing, I guess. There you go. It's a small disappointment. You know, it wasn't like I was expecting a masterpiece, but I was disappointed that it wasn't any good at all. Number 2, if you had to change one thing about Star Wars Episode 1 through 3, what would it be and why? I would like to change the fact that everyone hates them unnecessarily, in my opinion. I don't think they're bad films. I enjoy them. It's probably the fan perception of those films that bothers me more than anything else. But of course, what you want me to say is, what would I change about the films themselves? Less CGI, more practical, you know. And almost, I mean, the first Episode 1, Phantom Menace, there was a lot of kind of, well, not practical work, but they filmed on location a lot more. And by the time we get to Episode 3, hardly anything was on location. It was all green screen stuff. And while the effects got better, the tangibility, if that's even a word, of the films just went down. So it was I don't know, it was a weird transition, a weird evolution. And when I watched Star Wars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in one go without stopping, and I think it was 2 years ago, I did a marathon of the whole 6 films in one go. The transition from 3 to 4 is really jarring. They tried to really bridge it, but it just, from the CGI fest to the practical, really was odd. So yeah, just more practical effects. Number 3, same as the second question, except for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't know about that one. I love the Fellowship of the Ring. Love Two Towers, love Return of the King, but I wouldn't really change that much about them, really. I can't think of anything. Maybe some of the goofier moments, like Legolas, like kind of sliding down the elephant's trunk at the end of the big battle. That was a bit too much, I think. just little bits really, nothing substantial. I think it's a fantastic film, or films, however you want to view them. An amazing achievement in cinema, and I absolutely love them, so I won't really change that much about them. Number 4, what is the most well-known yet underrated film in your opinion? The most well-known yet underrated film. I'm not quite sure about that. Underrated film that's well-known. Trying to think. Maybe a film that came out recently, I think get that much attention, maybe. Yeah, I'll just go with one of those again, because I can't think of anything like really big that stands out. But Rush from 2013, a Formula One drama based on a true story. Was it James Hunt and Niki Lauda, their rivalry in Formula One, portrayed by Daniel Bruhl and Chris Hemsworth. Ron Howard directed the film, and it is amazing. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the score was unbelievable, and it didn't really get that much attention at all, to be honest. I know people liked it a lot, and it wasn't like it got bad reviews, but I think that should have got more attention, even though it was well known, everyone knew about it and stuff. But I think it's very underrated, in my opinion. So I think it should be rated a little bit higher than people are rating it. Again, not really a great answer, but I can't really think of anything over the grand scheme of things over the past 30 years that's really been well known yet underrated. Number 5, what got you started on YouTube? Making wrestling videos. I saw people in like 2009, 2010 making videos, collecting wrestling DVDs, and I thought, that's great, I want to get into that as well, so I did. And then the community itself of wrestling, the internet wrestling community, very competitive and jealousy driven, and people were just showing off and putting down people who didn't have great collections and stuff, and it was a very childish community, and I just got out, I transitioned out of it very quietly into the Blu-ray movie community, or the movie YouTube community, which I think is a great positive community for the most part. So yeah, that got me started on YouTube, but that's not what kept me on YouTube. Number 6, how long will you take a break for? This question was before I took a break, and it was about a month long, which is about as long as I guessed. Number 7, best on-screen performance you've witnessed and why? Wow, that's a tough one. Best on-screen performance. There's a lot of them. Michael Keaton in Clean and Sober, I think, is an underrated one, and one of the best I've seen. Is it Renee or Marie or Falconetti? I forget her name. I forget how to say her name because there's so many different ways of phrasing her name. But the woman who plays Joan of Arc in The Passion of Joan of Arc in the 20s, one of the most powerful performances I've ever seen, certainly. Maybe Adele Exarchopoulos, who plays, I forget the character's name. I think the character's name was Adele, in Blue is the Warmest Color, the French film from a couple of years ago. She gave an amazing performance. There's many, honestly, that there hasn't really been a performance I've seen where I've said, wow, that's the best acting I've ever seen. I mean, I do think of like The Deer Hunter, the Russian roulette scene with Christopher Walken and Rob De Niro. I think both of them in that scene, one of the most convincing performances I've ever seen anyone give. That was amazing. Robin Williams has given loads of great performances. Maybe again in The World According to Garp, perhaps. John Lithgow in The World According to Garp is an amazing performance. There's so many. Again, I probably should have looked at these and kind of written down some answers and stuff, but that's a few that stand out to me. I'm just looking up now, seeing if there's anything on my shelf that kind of makes anything else stand out. But that's about it, really, I guess. Maybe the dual performances of Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in the Before trilogy, just as a whole, each of the 3 films, they're both so utterly convincing. I think that's probably some of my favorite performances, the ones that aren't over the top and aren't people kind of screaming and crying and and it's the quieter performances that make you believe in them and are subtle and are human. Those, I think, make for the best performances sometimes. There are some louder performances that are fantastic, but I usually kind of am more impressed. I'm more impressed by the quieter ones. Thanks to the questions. Mike Kerwin asks, what is your favorite Harry Potter book? I'm not sure. Maybe The Prisoner of Azkaban, maybe The Deathly Hallows. I'll go with The Deathly Hallows on that one. Number 2, who is the most overrated and underrated wrestler of all time? Overrated, Triple H probably. Underrated. Underrated wrestler. I don't know, really. most of my favorite wrestlers, I think, are rated pretty much the way they should be. Underrated. That's a tough one. Underrated wrestler. Owen Hart. I think Owen Hart doesn't get enough credit sometimes. He was amazing. Number 3. What is one of your guilty pleasures in movies, life, anything, or anything really? I don't really have guilty pleasures because I don't feel guilty to take pleasure out of them. I mean, I really love romantic comedies. That's one of those things that a lot of people would say are guilty pleasures, but no, I mean, You've Got Mail is one of my favorite films. I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love romantic comedies that are done well. Just seeing a nice kind of romance blossom on screen is always a lot of fun. And they're really light movies as well that you can just kind of sit back and enjoy. You don't have to think about it too much. And I love those kind of films like Serendipity. Very cheesy, very idealistic, but I love it anyway. And part of me has that kind of idealism and romanticism inside me, so I like those kind of films. But I don't feel guilty for loving them. Guilty pleasures in life, I don't know, really. Nothing I can think of, to be honest. Bit of a lame answer, but there you go. If I can think of anything else, I'll follow it up. If you could watch any film from the 20s in the cinema today, what would it be? Very, very good question. Probably The General, I guess, or Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. Those would be the forerunners. Or Metropolis, or Frau Mond, or Die Nibelungen. That's just too many. Faust would be incredible to see on the big screen. They're doing a re-release of Steamboat Bill Jr., Buster Keaton's film, in September in the UK, and it's a 4K restoration. I really want to see that. That'd be like bucket list kind of awesome to see that film on the big screen. But if I had to choose one, I go with The General, I think. Number 5, will you ever continue the WWE 2002 in review series? Please, I beg you. Sorry, I'm not going to continue it. I've sold most of my wrestling DVDs. They were just collecting dust, and with the advent of the WWE Network, I figured that money was better put elsewhere, basically, and I've been using that to kind of support myself a little bit by selling all those wrestling DVDs. I've kept a lot that I really want to keep, but the 2002 ones had to go. So I'm sorry I never continued that series. I suppose I could continue it just by reviewing it, looking at the network, I guess. I don't have the network right now, but I can always get it at a drop of a hat, really, because it's pretty cheap. So, yeah, maybe at some point I'll continue that series, but without reviewing the DVDs. But I kind of would have liked to have done that anyway. I don't know. So sorry to disappoint you if I am by not committing to doing that again. Jonas Olsen comments on the live chat. The Jinx is a documentary miniseries about a murder case. Absolutely mind-blowing. A must-watch. Interesting. I'm not really a big fan of like murder documentaries, mainly because they used to shit me out when I was a kid. I was staying at a caravan park with my grandparents once, and I had my own little room and I had a little TV, and I put it on. I was watching like late night TV at like 1 a.m, and it was talking about this guy who used to drive around in like the countryside of Wales, and he would pick up people who were walking home from pubs, and he would like cut them up and like put them in bags and stuff. Fucking chilling. And they always have like a black and white blurry picture of the killer, and it's like a slow zoom in on it, and the music's like duh, creeps me the fuck out. But I'm sure what you're talking about is probably a very well made and interesting look into whatever it is. So I'll make a note of that. I'll write it down on my my sticky note on my desktop laptop, and yeah, I'll make a note to check out the Jinx at some point. I do enjoy a good enjoy murder films, even if they're like the what was it, Zodiac by David Fincher. That's an amazing film, and was that based on the true Zodiac killer? So yeah, I'll check that out. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the recommendation. Right, on to the archival questions, I guess you could call them. And I now have 8 viewers. Wow, that's pretty big for me. So if you have any questions, 8 viewers, then try and find the way to submit your questions if you have any, if you'd like to hear me. 9 viewers, wow, incredible. Right, so these questions are from Mad for Movies. Favorite movie? Mine is Raging Bull. Raging Bull, honestly, not to offend you, is not what I didn't see the hype behind it. I think I need to rewatch that one. I thought it was great, but it didn't win me over as much as I thought it would. But I can definitely see it being a favorite film, of course. It is a very well-made film with great performances. My favorite movie is The Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, favorite actor. Mine is Harrison Ford and Schwarzenegger. Mine is Michael Keaton. I don't think he's the best actor of all time by any stretch of the imagination, but I love the diversity in his filmography. I've seen every film he's made, and yeah, I just love him. I think he's brilliant. Number 3, favorite YouTuber. Mine is Cinema Sickness, and you. I'm assuming he's meaning me. If so, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Glad you enjoy my videos. My favorite YouTuber. Ooh, very tough. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite YouTuber. I guess I have a few favorite YouTubers. You know, Jolly Studio 1 is one of them. You know, Ian Folkable is another one. James DVD Collector 1974, Ryan Chataway, Robbie Webster. Mainly my friends really on YouTube. It's always easier to be fans of your friends, I think. I'm trying to think. You know, well, I don't know if you can count James Rolfe / Cinematica / The Angry Video Game Nerd, but that is a YouTube channel I watch, you know, on a weekly basis. Me and my fiance always watch the James and Mike Monday videos, so I get a lot of entertainment out of those guys. But yeah, that's it really. I don't really have a favorite YouTuber. Number 4, and I'm probably missing some people out. I apologize, but yeah. Number 4, top 5 directors. Mine are Spielberg, Hitchcock, Kubrick, Christopher Nolan, and James Cameron. Great picks. My 5 would be Wes Anderson, Richard Linklater, Akira Kurosawa, Hayao Miyazaki, and who else? Maybe Buster Keaton or Fritz Lang or F.W. Murnau. I don't know. I don't know who. Well, James Cameron. Definitely got to be James Cameron, actually. As much as I love the old silent classics, I'd have to go with James Cameron on that one. Worst film ever. Already covered that. Rabbit Test. Avoid at all costs. If you see a copy of it, buy it, burn it, and never talk about it again. Don't spread the word. Number 6, can you give me a shout out? Yes, Mad for Movies. This is a shout out to you. Yeah, that was really lame. I apologize, but I've mentioned your name, and it's technically a shout out, I guess. Number 7, J.J. Abrams, good or bad? I think good. Yeah, I enjoyed the Star Trek films he made. I'm like a huge Star Trek fan, so I could kind of watch them with a bit of objectivity, I guess. I know I wasn't really like kind of thinking it in terms of a big Star Trek fan, so I really enjoyed them just as standalone sci-fi films. I like the way they tied into the original Star Trek universe, and I love Super 8 as well. And it looks like, by all accounts, he's done an amazing job with the new Star Wars film, which I cannot wait for. So, good or bad? Definitely good for J.J. Abrams. Number 8, favorite Kubrick movie. Mine is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I have to go with The Shining, I think. I love Clockwork Orange. I love 2001. But The Shining is one you can just keep revisiting, and it's just incredible. Number 9, favorite Spielberg movie. Mine is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Mine would be Jaws or E.T. or I love Catch Me If You Can. That's a great Spielberg movie. I love that film. I'd probably have to go with Jaws, I guess. Let me think. Is there any other Spielberg? Jurassic Park. No, I'll go with Jurassic Park. The characters are so memorable. I just love that film. Every time I watch Jurassic Park, it's like, wow, I forgot how amazing this film is. It's so good. And all the characters are so memorable, unlike Jurassic World. That's a rant for another time. So, yeah, Jurassic Park, but Jaws is a close second. Favorite Wes Anderson film? Mine is The Royal Tenenbaums. Mine is Rushmore. That's in my top 10 favorite films, I think. I love every film he's made. Bottle Rocket, brilliant. Rushmore, brilliant. Royal Tenenbaums, amazing. You know, The Life Aquatic, underrated, I think, brilliant film. Darjeeling Limited, even more underrated, another brilliant film. Fantastic Mr. Fox, I'm just in love with. Moonrise Kingdom was fantastic. The Grand Budapest Hotel was great. But Rushmore is the one that I keep coming back to and is just fantastic. And we're at the end. We have a few more questions to go. So if anyone is watching this and wants to get in any questions before I end this stream, then get them in now. I'm not quite sure where. You could be able to, maybe on the right somewhere, or maybe you can click on the screen. Not too sure, but you should be able to send a question in on the Q&A app. But yeah, if you have any questions, send them in. Then we have a few questions from Scott, aka Cineram. Name 3 filmmakers you'd like to have a discussion with, or dinner discussion with. Hayao Miyazaki, I think. Well, I don't know, because I know he's quite brash and blunt, really, as much as I love him. I don't know. Well, Akira Kurosawa would be one. John Carpenter would be another one, I think. And I don't know, Buster Keaton, maybe? Yeah, Buster Keaton, Akira Kurosawa, and John Carpenter. Quite an eclectic mix. Number 2, what one question would you ask each of them? Not that you could only ask one question, but what's the one thing you'd most want to know? This is a really tough question. I mean, I just want to ask them, how are your films so good? You know, Buster Keaton, I'd probably ask him, what's the secret about, you know, the way you direct comedy? I think, because I think comedy is probably the toughest thing to do and pull off in a film. If you can do that, you can pretty much do anything. You know, look at comedic actors. You know, actors who are great at doing comedy, 9 times out of 10 amazing at doing drama. You know, because I think being funny is the hardest thing. And Buster Keaton certainly know how to be funny in terms of being a performer and directing his films and directing the gags. So I'd say to him, how do you make comedy work? Which is a bit of a broad question, which probably he couldn't answer, but that's what I'd ask, I think. I'd love to just kind of sit under the learning tree of Buster Keaton. And similarly with John Carpenter and Akira Kurosawa. John Carpenter, I'd ask him, how do you project that mood, that atmosphere? Whenever I see a John Carpenter film, I'm just like, oh, this is so good. I just love the atmosphere of his films, the mood of them, you know. And it is to do with the music, it is to do with the way he films and everything. But I'd like to know what, you know, what is the key to it all, you know. And Akira Kurosawa, what would I ask him? I don't know, really. I'd ask him, why did you let yourself fall out with Toshiro Mifune? Because you could have made so many more masterpieces with him, especially Ran from 1985, or from the 80s at least. You know, that would have been a great role for Toshiro Mifune to come back and do one last Akira Kurosawa film. Why didn't you patch things up with him between those 20 years, between Redbeard and Ran? I'd ask him, I guess. Or again, I just ask him, how are you so amazing at making films? Number 3, Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, and Melissa McCarthy have all been fired from the Ghostbusters remake. Pick 4 actresses to replace them, and no, you can't cancel the production. Well, I'm one of those people who doesn't really care that much about the new Ghostbusters film. Well, no one cares about it, but I mean, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, it's a travesty. How dare they remake Ghostbusters or do an all-female one, you know. Doesn't bother me, you know. I'll probably watch it, you know. Probably won't go and see it in the cinema, but I got no problem with it, really. But who would I use to replace them? Well, I'd like to see Kristen Wiig in there. I think she's great, so I'd keep her there if I can. I'd go for, I don't know, Emma Stone, I think, is really good, so I'd put her in there. Emily Blunt, I think, is really good. I'd stick her in there as well. Maybe Jennifer Lawrence would be a bit too much of an obvious choice. Again, I think she's a great actress. I know a lot of people have a lot of hate for her, probably because of how popular she is and everything. But I will say I don't think she deserved an Oscar nomination for American Hustle, not by a long shot. But I still think she's great. Kristen Wiig, Emily Blunt. Who else did I say? Emma Stone. Another actress who could go in there. I really don't know. There's not many that are great in terms of, I don't know. It takes a lot to make me laugh, you know. I mean, you look at the original Ghostbusters film, you know, taking Ernie Hudson out of the equation, just, you know, because he wasn't really, for me, he wasn't a key part of that film. But you got Dan Aykroyd, you got Harold Ramis and Bill Murray, who are just 3 amazing comedic actors, you know. It takes a lot to make me laugh, basically. And there's not a lot of female comedians out there, I think, who can really pull that off. So, I don't know. Melissa McCarthy, does she deserve to be in there? I'm not really a big fan of her. I saw her in a film recently called St. Vincent, where she wasn't being the typical Melissa McCarthy character. And I thought she was really good, playing the straight woman. So I don't hate her. I'm trying to think of just like female comedy movies now that have been good. Tell you what, Kristen Wiig, Emily Blunt, who else? Emma Stone, and Elizabeth Olsen. Because I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Olsen. I think she's a fantastic actress. She's great in pretty much everything I've seen her in. I don't know if she'd be able to pull off a comedy, but I think she could be a good kind of straight role, you know, that could kind of, the other 3 could kind of bounce off of, you know, just kind of the straight-laced part. There you go. That's my answer. That was a tough one. Number 4, there's 3 questions left. Kathleen Kennedy has been watching your YouTube videos and emails you asking for episode 9 director suggestions. Sorry you can't pick yourself. Episode 9. Interesting. Episode 9. I'm trying to think of people who I mean, Ryan Johnson I'm a big fan of, and I'm really glad that he's directing episode 8. Really, really happy about that. Let me think about current directors who I'm a big fan of who could make a good Star Wars movie. That's a tough one. I'd honestly just say keep Rian Johnson on, because I think he's a brilliant director. You know, not only has he directed some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad, you know, he's behind Looper, which is a brilliant sci-fi film. I don't know, current directors. I don't know whether I'd go for Alfonso Cuarón, you know. I mean, I'm a big fan of him, but I don't know whether he'd go too different with it. Interesting. Really, really interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the lame answer and say keep Rian Johnson on for through 8 until 9. I'd like there to be some consistency. You know, part of me wishes that J.J. Abrams was doing all of them, because it seems like he's doing such a good job with this one. So maybe J.J. Abrams again. I'd just like there to be some consistency and not kind of chopping around every episode. But then I don't know whether they're going to go to episode like 10, 11. Maybe they're going to just really milk it. I don't know. I'm going to go with Rian Johnson because I still think he's a great choice, and I'm happy that he's behind episode 8. Again, I could go to like some of my favorite directors like Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright, but their styles don't work in a Star Wars film. And 5, Connie just won the equivalent of $100 million from the lottery. She wants to produce and star in a movie and asks you to write the script. What will her film be about? And you can ask the real Connie for help with this one. This is the only question I prepared for. I asked Connie what kind of film she would want to star in, and for me to write it. And she said either a superhero or space movie. And then she changed her mind to an adaptation of the book that she's been writing for a few years, which would be kind of like a superpower kind of mutant film, not a superhero film, but about a group of people who have these special powers. And that's all she wants me to say about it in case she finishes the book. So yeah, I guess that's kind of her answering that question more than me than anything really. But that's what it would be, I guess. I mean, if I had $100 million to make any film I wanted to make, that'd be a whole other thing. So there is one more question, and I'm going to now go to Jonas Olsen's question: Star Wars or Batman? It's still really hard. I've been trying to think about it while I've been answering the other questions, which probably isn't a very good thing, but I'd have to go with, I don't know, because with Star Wars there's only been 6 films, and now we're about to see probably another 6 films within the next 5 years, and I don't know how it's going to hold up. I don't know if there being so many more Star Wars films in the future is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know whether the original trilogy being just these 3 classic films, you know, that had never been matched, is good because it's, you know, it's quality over quantity. I don't know if there's going to be bad Star Wars films made and it's going to kind of bring down the whole thing. I don't know. With Batman, you know, I mostly look at the films, and I love the films, and I love the character. I love how the character can be reinterpreted through the comics and the games, but the same can be said of Star Wars as well. I think it's Star Wars. It's going to be Star Wars, and it's only because no Batman film has filled me with a sense of wonder that The Empire Strikes Back did when I was a kid, when Luke met Yoda, and that whole sequence of the film on Dagobah. Like, nothing has really sparked my imagination and my excitement more than that. You know, I mean, Batman's awesome, but I'd have to go with Star Wars, I think. So there we go. That's my answer. It was a tough one. And finally, we have a question. Well, 2 more questions at the end. One was from my cousin Jody. She said, "Who's your favorite cousin?" Not you. I'm kidding. I don't really have a favorite cousin of my many cousins, but she asks, "Your favorite Three Rascals memory?" The Three Rascals was a film that we made when we were kids, with her dad, my uncle, making it, and her brother Adam also in it. And it was the 3 of us. And The Three Rascals was from my love of the film The Little Rascals from the 90s. And it was just a little adventure film with us 3 breaking into a house, old Kravi's house, this old witch woman played by our nan who was amazing. And we stole some treasure or something. Like we stole a map to find hidden treasure. It was so much fun. You know, that was in 1998, so I was 10 years old. And I guess she would have been 6 or 7. And Adam was probably around 7 or 8, something like that. My favorite memory from making that was, my favorite thing about that was that it sparked my love of filmmaking. But my favorite memory from making the film was having a sword fight with my nan on top of this wall. I mean, who can say that they've had an on-screen sword fight with their nan? And it ended with me and my cousin Adam hitting her in the stomach with a sword, and she jumped off the wall. and then she rolled down a hill and hit a tree, basically, which sounds a lot more violent than it was. But I mean, again, she rolled and just kind of stopped by a tree. But the fact that she would have been about 55, 56 then. She'd either had her hip replaced, or she desperately needed to have a hip replaced at that point, and she jumped off a wall and rolled down a hill to make the film fun for us. You know, it almost gets me emotional thinking about that, just how awesome my nan was and still is. And that's just an amazing memory that not many people can say they've had a sword fight with their nan. So that'd be my favorite memory from the Three Rascals. But, you know, I love how that sparked my filmmaking life. You know, even if it's just this on YouTube, it was the genesis point. So finally, a question from Darren Locke. His question is simple. He literally says, my question is simple: why YouTube? So to anyone viewing now, if you can find the way to send in the question, now's your chance. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll answer this last question. From Darren: why YouTube? Because it is a way for me to get my creativeness out there. It's a way for me to express myself in a way. It's a way for me to blather on and ramble on about how I love films, why I love films, and you know, I sometimes feel like, you know, is this even worth anything? You know, just rambling on about, you know, oh, I love this film because of this and this and this, and sometimes I listen to myself and think, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, but it's fun to exert that energy that I have for, you know, my love of films. It's fun to express myself, because I don't really know many people, if any, in real life who I can really gush to about films without kind of feeling like I'm going over their heads. You know, recently I was at a wedding, and someone asked me, what's your favorite film? And I was like, oh, Seven Samurai. And they're like, what? And I was like, oh, it's an old Japanese film. You know, okay. And I just felt like I couldn't say more than that, otherwise it would just be like, you know. And sometimes I do feel like when I say to people, oh, I love these silent films, they just look at me like, what? And I just feel like I can't expand on that. I can't further my discussion on it, or further the discussion on it, so it just stops there. So for me, YouTube is a way to just kind of get all that out, but also have fun creating things and doing the 24-hour movie marathons and making them like little mini films. Even then they're far from mini, they're gargantuan. So, you know, just the way I do little skits and things like that. But interaction is another reason I would say why YouTube, because of the interaction, because you get people who watch you, people who can comment, and you can kind of find people who have similar interests. And I've made some fantastic friends through YouTube. Again, I've gone to America and visited a few fellow YouTubers, and it's been amazing. And I've had some great times with those guys, Robbie Webster and Ryan Chataway, to be specific. And yeah, you just find good people who like the same stuff that you like, and you can talk to about the things that you like. And I feel like, again, what the fuck am I talking about? I'm just rambling on about the same points at this point. So that's why YouTube, basically. So that's it, I think. No more questions have been coming in. Jonas also says Star Wars for the win. And yeah, so that's it, really. Thanks for watching. And yeah, thanks for watching, the people who watch this live, and thank you for watching if you've watched this after the fact. And everyone who asked questions, I hope that my answers were satisfactory. If not, send me a message, you know, and I'll follow up on anything, I guess. And that's it, really. So yeah, it worked, and my cat actually lied down and didn't try and lick her wound and further injure herself. So big thanks to Lily for not being an absolute twat during the recording of this, and I'll see you very soon. And if you're watching this right now live, a top 5 video will be going up in the next couple of hours, so stay tuned for that. And watch the RazorwireReviews Bathon Returns Part 1 if you haven't seen it already. That's about it, really. Enough self-promotion, enough blathering on. See ya.